You have to see this video on the Norfolk Trotter. This is not just a beautiful horse, but it is a utility horse.
In the pale light of an English morning, mist clings to the low hills like a thin veil. The sun lifts itself slowly, painting the fields in soft gold. Dew glitters on fence posts and long grass. A quiet settles over the landscape, broken only by the thin rhythmic sound of distant hoofbeats and birds calling to the waking world. This is the Norfolk countryside, and here, before engines and asphalt, a horse moved people and ideas, pulling the map of a nation into new shape. This is the story of the Norfolk Trotter, a horse driven by purpose, bred for steady speed, and remembered in the leap and cadence of modern trotting breeds. In the 17th and 18th centuries, England's eastern counties were a patchwork of farms, market towns, and winding lanes. Roads were rarely more than rutted tracks, and journeys that seem small today could be long and uncertain. In that world, movement was measured to change the prospects of a farmer, the reach of a merchant, the timing of a message. Out of that environment, practical needs shaped an elegant solution, a horse that trotted with speed and steadiness, one that could cover miles without exhausting its rider or its own strength. The Norfolk Trotter emerged as a response to demand. It was not naively romantic. It was engineered by folk who understood utility. Local breeders and explosive rush of a gallop allowed a steady pace that could be maintained for hours. Imagine mail coaches snaking along muddy lanes, traders making the rounds between villages, or a gentleman traveling between estates. The Norfolk Trotter gave them dependable motion. Over generations, the selective pairing of horses that exhibited these traits refined a distinct type. Taller than many farm mares, with muscular hindquarters and a deep chest, built for both speed and stamina. Visualize the horse close-up, a profile of musculature in motion, powerful haunches propelling a long ground-covering stride, forelegs reaching forward with purpose. Sunlight outlines the arch of a neck, the taut shoulder, the rhythm of breathing. These horses moved with economy. They did not waste energy. Their hooves struck the earth in regular cadence, and their bodies converted each step into forward progress. To the people who depended on them, these were not show horses or delicate thoroughbreds. They were partners in daily survival, steady and uncomplaining. That steadiness came with temperament. The Norfolk Trotter was known for being sensible, for forming reliable bonds with riders and drivers, and for responding with intelligence to the needs of the road. They learned to pace themselves, to read terrain, and to accept the repeated demands of travel. The build of the Norfolk Trotter was functional beauty. Long legs gave leverage, strong hindquarters supplied propulsion, a deep chest housed the lung capacity necessary for prolonged exertion. Compared to common farm stock, these trotters carried height and refinement. Their conformation favored balance and efficiency rather than flash. Eyes were alert but calm, ears moved with attention. The mane and tail flowed behind them, catching the light as they moved. Slow-motion scenes of a trotter at work reveal a body designed for economy, minimal wasted motion, maximal forward thrust. Watching such a horse is like watching a machine tuned by generations of selective breeding. The design emerges not from blueprints, but from observation, from hands-on reins, and the experience of miles traveled. Temperament was as important as form. A useful horse had to have a dependable mind. The Norfolk Trotter tended toward an even temperament, willing, sensible, and trainable. It accepted long days and changing conditions without panicking. It formed steady partnerships with human handlers, learning to respond calmly to cues and to share the burden of travel. This temperament made the breed suitable for a range of tasks: pulling carriages, carrying riders, hauling light goods, for a family sending a child to market, for a merchant moving wares between towns, or for a coachman guiding a delicate vehicle over uneven ground. Calmness and steadiness could be life-saving traits. The Norfolk Trotter did not need to be flashy. Its quiet reliability was its charm. The practical work of these horses unfolded on rough lanes and in bustling market squares. Picture a light carriage rolling along a country road, wheels creaking gently as the horse moves at an unhurried but persistent trot. Coaches relied on pairs or teams. Single trotters pulled gig carriages or carts. The trot allowed travelers to maintain schedule without exhausting the animal, and the trotter's stamina widened the geographic possibilities for trade and communication. Before railways and regular postal routes, horses like the Norfolk Trotter were living links in the chain of commerce. They carried letters, newspapers, fabrics, and produce, and they brought people together in ways that reshaped social and economic life. The efficiency of travel meant more frequent markets, faster news, and a growing sense of national connectivity. Alongside practical use, an element of sport emerged. Trotting races started as informal contests among neighbors and developed into organized events, where the steady speed and consistency of a trotter were pitted against rivals. These races were not solely for spectacle. They functioned as tests that helped breeders refine stock. A trotter that could sustain a fast pace across distance without breaking into a gallop or faltering in the last mile proved valuable. Spectators in period clothing, lining a dirt track, the hush of anticipation, the measured rhythm as two horses move side by side. These scenes reflect a culture of railways in the 19th century changed transport dramatically. Where horses once carried mail and people across counties, steam trains began to offer faster, heavier, and more predictable movement. Tracks stitched cities and towns together with a new speed, and the economics of travel shifted. Gradually, the demand for long-distance trotting horses, a separate, widely recognized type, faded. That fading did not mean disappearance, it meant transformation. The Norfolk Trotter's genetic and cultural legacy flowed into other breeds. Breeders recognized valuable attributes, the trotter's efficient gait, its conformation and temperament, and incorporated those qualities into new types of harness and saddle horses. One of the most significant descendants is the Hackney horse, known for its high-stepping action and carriage work, and for possessing refined trot characteristics. The influence of Norfolk Trotters extended beyond England. Their traits helped shape trotting breeds used for harness racing and carriage driving across Europe and in colonies abroad. In that sense, the Norfolk Trotter's spirit lived on in bloodlines and in the continued appreciation for steady, purposeful movement. Even today, when we watch a modern trotting horse glide across a field, there is a through line back to those early Norfolk animals. The same priorities, economy of motion, temperament suited to partnership with people, and structural balance continue to matter to breeders and riders. The trotting gait remains prized for its practicality and athleticism. Museums and breeding records preserve fragments of the Norfolk Trotter story, and the horse's image survives in paintings, written accounts, and in the living descendants that still carry traces of those early selections. In quiet stables and on sunlit tracks, the legacy persists as both a genetic imprint and a cultural memory. Consider the quiet dignity of a lone trotter crossing a field at sunset, the horse's silhouette outlined against a golden sky, muscles moving with practiced rhythm, breath steaming in the cooling air. There is something almost meditative in the steady cadence of the trot, a beat that connects the present with the past. The contemporary paddock to the 17th century lane is a two-beat gait, diagonal pairs of legs moving together, which offers a blend of speed and stability. It allows sustained motion without the severe metabolic demands of a gallop. For pulling light vehicles, delivering messages, or traveling moderate distances quickly, the trot was optimal. Additionally, the trot's predictability made it safer on uneven surfaces. Horses trained to hold a steady trot were less likely to stumble or become unbalanced when negotiating potholes or soft ground. The Norfolk Trotter's conformation complemented this gait. Long legs increased stride length, and a deep chest supported aerobic capacity. Over generations, breeders reinforced these traits, selecting animals that trotted smoothly for miles. The Norfolk Trotter's temperament is equally significant. Reliability under pressure is as much a genetic and learned trait as physical conformation. Horses used for regular travel learn to tolerate varied stimuli, changing weather, traffic in market towns, the unpredictability of roads. A calm, trainable mind enabled handlers to keep to schedules and reduced accidents. Such temperament also made the horses more pleasant companions in daily life, fostering close bonds between rider and animal. Those bonds had economic and emotional value. A trusted trotter saved time and money and offered companionship that modern transport cannot replicate. Culturally, the Norfolk Trotter was part of a broader story about mobility and modernity. In the centuries before industrialized transport, the ability to move reliably shaped political, social, and economic possibilities. Faster overland travel expanded markets, allowed news to move quicker, and enabled the circulation of ideas. The Norfolk Trotter, by contributing to this mobility, played a role, however quiet, in the gradual reshaping of social life. It is a small but telling example of how animal breeding responds to human needs, and in turn, how animals shape those needs by providing capabilities. The story of the Norfolk Trotter is a story of adaptation on two sides: human ingenuity in selective breeding, and animal capacity to meet the demands placed upon it. Even as technology replaced horses in many roles, the cultural memory of the trotter remained Artists and writers captured those figures of motion. Breeders preserved lines that carried desirable traits. Local histories kept the name alive. In modern equestrian circles, the qualities once prized in Norfolk Trotters are still sought after in different contexts, in harness racing, in carriage driving competitions, and in horses bred for long, comfortable trail riding. The lineage may have changed names and combined with other types, but the functional core, a horse that can move well, reliably, and with a good mind, persists. As the sun sets on our imagined Norfolk field, a trotter's form fades into the last light. The hoofbeats that were once the rhythm of daily commerce have slowed in the national story, yet they echo in unexpected places. In the clipped, efficient trot of a show horse, in the measured pace of a carriage at a country wedding, in the DNA passed along in thoroughbred and harness lines. The Norfolk Trotter was not merely a breed of horse. It was an adaptation to a particular set of needs, a solution that matched the rhythms of an era. It reminds us that progress is not only about new inventions, but also about refinements of living systems, how people and animals shape one another over time. So when you see a horse trotting down a lane or pulling a carriage beneath strings of bunting, take a moment to consider the older world behind that movement. The Norfolk Trotter helped to smooth the way between distant places, to make markets reachable, and to bring people together with reliable, purposeful motion. Though the distinct type may no longer stand alone in stud books, its influence and spirit are carried forward in horses that still value the steady, efficient trot. In that sense, the Norfolk Trotter lives on, not as a museum piece, but as a thread woven into the living tapestry of equine history. The last light dwindles, the air cools. The horse's hooves soften into the long evening hush. In the quiet that follows, the landscape seems to hold a history of movement, of miles traveled, of markets connected, of messages delivered. The Norfolk Trotter's story is a gentle but persistent hum in that history, an example of how form and function can converge to meet human needs, and how those choices ripple forward long after the original problem has been solved. This is a story about a horse that did its work without fanfare, changing the way people moved, and in doing so helping shape the modern world in small, steady increments. As the camera pulls back, the silhouette of the horse becomes a dark mark against the horizon. The narration falls into the rhythm of the trot one final time, steady, unhurried, and full of quiet purpose. The Norfolk Trotter may not gallop into the spotlight of mainstream histories, but its pace set many things in motion. It represents the quiet power of adaptation, the virtue of endurance, and the strength of a partnership between people and animals that once, for all the practical reasons of survival and trade, mattered more than any invention. That partnership carried communities forward, mile by mile.
Measured courses and public roads across counties. Origins of the Norfolk Trotter traced to rural East Anglia, where local carriage horses were selectively bred for size, temperament, blending farm utility with competitive ambition as owners sought animals capable of reliable work and victory in roadside contests and county fairs. Over generations, the Norfolk Trotter developed a compact, muscular build, strong legs, and a courageous heart, traits that combined with intelligence and a willing nature to produce a horse that responded well in harness, carried riders smoothly, and kept its rhythm under pressure during long races and road journeys proudly. Norfolk popularity. Norfolk Trotters pulled carts, delivered goods, and served as reliable family horses, all while proving competitive on the track, a duality valued by owners who wanted both usefulness and sporting prestige from a single animal fit for roads, farms, and long-distance competitions in England. The Norfolk Trotter's influence moved beyond county fairs, as selective breeding crossed with imported bloodlines and careful selection for gait, speed, and temperament produced horses increasingly specialized for trotting contests rather than heavy draft work. Owners kept meticulous records, compared performance, and favored offspring that trotted true and fast regularly. By the 19th century, the Norfolk Trotter had attained national renown. Its reputation carried in racing reports, stud lists, and newspaper columns that celebrated bloodlines, memorable matches, and horses whose endurance seemed almost legendary to riders and spectators alike. They chronicled performances trotting miles at steady pace and shaping pedigrees. Important individuals in the breed's history included influential trot that combined speed with a rhythmic suspension, making the Norfolk Trotter efficient in harness and comfortable to ride, a trait appreciated by postilions, merchants, and leisure riders alike. It translated to organized trotting sport where steadiness and speed won honors frequently. Norfolk Trotters were sometimes crossed with other regional types to refine traits, and these crosses contributed to the development of several modern trotting breeds, as studmasters sought to capture the Norfolk speed while adjusting size and endurance for different tasks. Their lines spread into many stables, races, blood was absorbed into emerging breeds rather than preserved under its old name, so its defining qualities lived on, even as the breed itself ceased to exist as a pure registered population. Its legacy remains visible in pedigrees, performance, and breed characteristics today. Today, the Norfolk Trotter exists mostly in historical records, paintings, and accounts that capture the admiration of contemporaries who praised its courage, steadiness, and utility, offering modern readers a vivid sense of a once-cherished local equine type. Museums and historians preserve images, pedigrees, and stories that keep memory alive vivid. For enthusiasts tracing the evolution of trotting breeds, the Norfolk Trotter represents an important. The Norfolk Trotter, we learn about more than conformation and speed. We learn about communities that prized mobility, competitions that entertained and connected towns, and a period when horses bridged the gap between workaday life and sporting spectacle. They influenced which breeds thrived, merged, or vanished over. Preservationists and historians sometimes reconstruct the Norfolk Trotter's contributions using pedigrees, race results, and contemporary descriptions, piecing together how specific lines influenced later breeds and which traits proved heritable and desirable in varied environments. This detective work clarifies the breed's role in forming trotting standards and informs modern breeding decisions. Visually, artists often portrayed Norfolk Trotters in action or at rest, emphasizing muscular necks, alert ears, and the poised trot that suggested energy controlled by training and temperament rather than brute force. They shaped expectations, encouraging breeders to select for conformation, action, and an even-minded disposition in future stock consistently. The cultural footprint of the Norfolk Trotter also appears in literature and local lore, where anecdotes celebrate epic journeys, spirited match races, and the pride of owners whose horses performed reliably under challenging conditions. That scene reveals how horses powered daily life and offered dramatic pleasure to townspeople and travelers nearby. Understanding the Norfolk Trotter's decline also requires acknowledging technological shifts. Railways, improved roads, and the rise of motor vehicles reduced reliance on trotting horses for transport, changing the market and diminishing the need for a breed optimized solely for harness speed. Breeders increasingly favored multi-purpose or modern racing lines instead. Still, the practical lessons of the Norfolk Trotter endure. Selection for gait, temperament, and soundness produces horses suited to particular human needs, and regional breeds can leave a deep genetic imprint long after their names vanish from registry rolls. Today's breeders learn from history when making conservation and improvement choices. For anyone curious about equine history, the Norfolk Trotter offers a compact but rich story about adaptation, human need, and how selective breeding turns local strengths into broader influence that reshapes breeds and sporting cultures. You can spot its echoes in modern trotters' gait, stamina, and the language breeders use. When telling this story on camera, the visual contrast between old prints, racing accounts, and modern trotters can help viewers sense continuity, and brief comparisons to breeds like the Standardbred clarify how the Norfolk's traits were redirected into new genetic projects. Show maps, pedigrees, and gait footage to illustrate influence. The narrative can end on a thoughtful note, acknowledging loss of the pure breed while celebrating how selective breeding and human imagination transformed a regional trotter into a legacy that still pulses through harness racing bloodlines. That legacy reminds us how animals and people co-evolve, shaping work and play together. If viewers leave curious, encourage further reading in accessible sources. Histories of British horses, studies of the Standardbred, and local county records often reveal the names, deeds, and lineages that connect modern breeds back to Norfolk's trotting stock. Museums, online archives, and breed societies are good entry points for exploration. More broadly, the Norfolk Trotter story offers a template for understanding how technology and taste can converge to reshape the animals we rely on, and how something once common can become a historical curiosity with echoes in living breeds. It prompts questions about conservation, heritage, and practical breeding priorities today. As a closing image, imagine an old Norfolk road where a trotter once set off at a steady, assured pace. Mail and merchants being carried forward, towns connected by rhythm and endurance, a living metaphor for a vanished way of life. That scene explains breeders' pride and historians' lasting interest. Even though the pure Norfolk Trotter no longer walks the fields as a distinct breed, its qualities, speed and harness, steady trot, and enduring temperament continue to inform how modern trotters are judged, bred, and celebrated. When you watch a modern harness race, traces of Norfolk blood and breeding philosophy remain visible. In short, the Norfolk Trotter's story is a compact lesson in how human needs, regional practice, and targeted selection can create a horse perfectly adapted to its moment, and how over time those adaptations migrate into newer forms. Breeders, historians, and racers still trace and value that lineage today widely. If this history sparks curiosity, images of old Norfolk Trotters, museum accounts, and examples of their influence in breeds like the Standardbred make for rewarding research and storytelling that connects past practice with present sport. Use images, timelines, and simple pedigrees to show influence from local to global breeds clearly. Above all, the Norfolk Trotter reminds us that breeds reflect lives, not just aesthetics, and that as societies change, so do the animals that serve them, leaving legacies that can be studied, appreciated, and sometimes revived in purpose. Studying history helps conservationists and breeders align animals with modern human needs. The Norfolk Trotter may no longer be registered under that name, but its heartbeat echoes in the measured trot of many modern harness horses, a subtle reminder that even lost breeds contribute to the living tapestry of equine genetics and culture. Their influence lives on in performance, conformation, and pedigree. So remember the Norfolk Trotter as a bridge between necessity and sport, a regional horse whose trotting heart reshaped bloodlines and whose story invites us to notice the quiet ways people and animals have always changed each other. Its legacy teaches respect for breeding history and contemporary equine stewardship daily.